It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott's here. Mary Jo Foley is here. We've got an E3 wrap-up. We'll take a look at Windows Phone 8.1. And yes, it's coming to a phone near you. It's all ahead next on Windows Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, episode 366, recorded June 11th, 2014. An explosion of stupidity. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Lynda.com. Learn what you want when you want with access to over 2,500 high-quality online courses and training videos, all for one low monthly price. To try it free for 7 days, visit lynda.com/windows. That's lynda.com/windows. And by Carbonite. Whether you have one computer at home or several at your small business, Carbonite backs up your files to the cloud automatically and continually. Plus, access your files anytime, anywhere with a free app. Start your free trial at Carbonite.com. There's no credit card required. Just use the offer code WINDOWS, and you'll get 2 bonus months with purchase. And by Citrix's ShareFile. Enhance your workflow. Send files of almost any size easy and securely with Citrix's ShareFile. Try ShareFile today. For a 30-day free trial, go to sharefile.com, click the microphone, and enter Windows. It's time for Windows Weekly. Oh, wait a minute. I said I would start this show a little more calmly because we have such a calm song.
What, do you scare people with?
There's, well, one guy, I think it's, I can't remember his name now. Shoot. I was going to remember it. Writes in.
You gotta whisper the intro. You gotta be like,
can you start it a little less strongly? It's time for Windows Weekly. And here they are. The stars of our show.
Yeah, like it's a jazz show at 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, late night with Paul and Mary Jo.
This little soothing music.
the quiet storm. Paul Thurrott, Supersite for Windows, winsupersite.com. Mary Jo Foley, all about Microsoft, the ZDNet blog. Great to have you here to discuss once again what the hell's going on in Redmond. What the heck is that thing in Redmond? E3 is this week, and you know, it's funny because usually E3, which is the big gaming show, Gina Smith started it with Electronic Entertainment Magazine. It was Electronic Entertainment Expo, E. I don't think the Electronic...
E to the third.
E to the third. I don't think E squared, the magazine, lived, but the trade show lives on. It's a big gaming show. Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, of course, the tent poles, but everybody's there. Bethesda Softworks and Infinity Ward and all the big game developers to show off their new games. And normally we get a lot of press on it, and we didn't get much. Mary Jo, you can take a walk.
I think I'm going to take a nap for the next 30.
No, actually, here's a fairly profound statement about E3. E3 as a gaming show is actually pretty boring when they only talk about games. You know, I mean,
you're a gamer too. For you to say that's kind of
and it's just
wow.
you know, you can only watch so many of these like montage clips. You know, like here's another shooting game, and it's a giant robot that looks like it used to be in Doom, and you know, it gets, you know.
I attribute that to the kind of lack of originality in gaming and in game. They're all the same.
Sure.
You know, I mean, if there were some variety, I guess there is. Independent game developers are doing really interesting stuff, but that, I don't know.
How did the E3 story get to the top of this thing, Mary Jo? What happened there?
I'm just following your guys' lead. I don't make this stuff up. People go,
oh, I'm just,
Leo, why would you start the show with gaming?
Because I think there are two, actually, I as you guys know, I couldn't have cared less about the games. I tried to watch that keynote, and I just could not. But there were two interesting things about it from a Microsoft perspective. Why they barely mentioned Kinect at all during this presentation.
Really?
And also why they talked about Xbox One being a gaming console after last year doing the exact opposite and talking about it as an entertainment console. So that's why it's at the top of the notes, because that's very
and added to that is, you know, Sony talked about PS4 being an entertainment console, and it was like this kind of weird reversal.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of interesting.
This subject's so exciting to Mary Jo that she's frozen like a popsicle. Could you start
Should I
and stop your
restart my
video? Yeah, just don't restart Skype. Just
Yeah.
So obviously, Microsoft has spent the past year capitulating to the complainers. Now I've frozen. There we go. And
It's us.
Culminating in the release on Monday of the Xbox One without Kinect, right? The version everyone's been asking for since a year ago,
right?
And that comes in at the same price as the PS4. And so it's really not coincidental, but it's interesting how those things happen on the same day. And Microsoft announced the creation of an Xbox One user voice website, similar to what they have for Windows 8 and for Windows Phone 8.1, where they're actively soliciting feedback from, even I say this, it's hard not to laugh. Like, Microsoft is actively soliciting the feedback of its fans and users to guide the direction of this product going forward, which is so logical. And why wasn't it this way all along? We don't know.
Well, we can say that about Windows 8 as well, can't we?
Well, I mean, right. There was always kind of an ivory, well, not always. For the past several years, there had been an ivory tower kind of mentality that, from Microsoft, we know best. And I love watching them reach out to users and get feedback and then direct the development of the product. We see that with Xbox Music on Windows Phone 8.1, for example, which is a disaster. But they're really looking for feedback from users. They've shipped 4 updates to that app since Windows Phone 8.1 RTM'd. And that will probably be it before the the public release or whatever. But this is something that keeps getting updated over time and frankly needs it. But it's nice. It's just nice to see that.
Yeah.
Well,
I reached out and asked them. I said, I'm curious why you guys didn't talk about Xbox One as an entertainment console this year. And they gave me a canned statement. They said, E3 is a show for gamers. They want to see games. Well, that's not what you did last year.
Wait a minute, though. Right. Am I wrong? Because I thought last year they had 2 events. They had one pre-E3, which was very much...
Yeah, they had the unveiling.
And that was very much about what you could do with TV. And didn't their event at E3 talk about games, or am I wrong?
Oh, no. E3 was a disaster.
They didn't talk about games at E3.
The unveiling was a bit of information, and then E3 was the rest of the information. Right. And what they were pushing was their kind of vision for Xbox One at the time, which included such things as family sharing, right? Always on was a requirement.
People got upset about.
And this was, I don't remember the guy's name anymore.
Yeah, because he's gone.
Because he's gone. Literally because he's gone. But, one of the boobs said something like, well, it's too bad if you're on a nuclear submarine because you can't have a connection. I guess you'll have to use an Xbox 360. Oh. And you could just feel like the PR sharks from Sony circling the waters, Yeah. And Sony had that very... they had some funny videos they made, like, our games work fine offline. Watch, and they put the game in and it's not connected to the internet and it worked fine or whatever. And, they did a good job of mocking Microsoft for their initial, vision or whatever. So here we are.
Hey, but I did buy a $100 3-terabyte drive and plug it into the USB port.
Nice.
And it worked great.
Works.
And it extends it. And I now have 3 terabytes of storage. So I downloaded all the free games.
So you can get 10% better performance if you remove Kinect. I'm wondering about, and I'm wondering about doing graphics performance. Yeah, it's graphics because I guess they reserve 10% of the graphics, the GPU for Kinect.
That sucks.
And so when you don't have Kinect, it's freed for the whole system to use.
10%'s a lot. That's actually
I know, it's weird. So between that and the possibility of like an SSD drive. Kind of replacement. I'm curious, if there isn't something there to making this thing significantly faster.
I don't feel like it's slow.
Oh, I do.
Oh, you do? And
not in game, not when you're playing a game. It's the whole, getting to the game is slow.
Yeah, loading is slow. I agree, but that's not the worst GPU. That's disk I/O.
No, right. And the worst thing you can do in Xbox One, I like that it can do 2 things at once, but if you want to do anything from within it, you're playing a game and something happens. And you're like, I want to go back to the dashboard and do something else. That process is slower than molasses. And that was true of the 360. And it was one of those things I was really hoping they were going to get right on Xbox One. Mary Jo must see this every day. She loves Xbox.
I do.
I'm excited. Look, okay. I play games. I got Watch Dogs. I'll definitely get Wolfenstein. But also, I was excited because there's this Brazil app that I can snap, and I can watch the soccer game and get live real-time stats on the World Cup. That's exciting. Nobody gets excited about that, I guess. People buy an Xbox to play games, and all this media stuff is falling on deaf ears because gamers don't care. Is that right?
One of the features that's coming, did they just deliver this, or is it coming later? And I'll never use this, so I'll never know for sure. I'd have to look it up. But they're adding Twitter support to the OS.
That I don't care about.
Right.
But that will be in the Brazil thing, because you'll see tweets go by.
This is what I need to understand. Like, you're watching TV, Game of Thrones, or a sporting event.
I don't want to see
and
tweets.
You have a pane at the bottom where people are tweeting about that thing.
No.
And you're tweeting about it. Have we missed the point of TV? I mean,
well, I think they're observing that people are doing that.
To zone out, isn't it?
People are doing that. Oh no, yeah, Paul, you don't live in the same family
I don't want that,
do.
Leo. I'm old.
I'm the only one not holding a tablet or a laptop while we watch TV. Everybody else.
When you used to dump kids' books in high school? I would do that to someone with an iPad if they were tweeting during a game or something.
Can I just say it's a little frustrating because I'm watching the show and I'm interested in the show and what's going on, and then Lisa will look up and say, "What happened?" It's like, oh, you're sitting here. What?
Yeah, are you kidding me? Yeah, exactly.
Who's that?
I know.
But people don't. Nobody does anymore. They don't. Nobody watches the show. They're doing the.
I mean, this is where it starts. This,
short
the face and the
attention
screen
span
thing
theater.
is insane to me.
Yeah. So, but I think Microsoft's responding to that. That people are doing it with a second screen already.
Just do it up on the screen.
I don't want to see it on the TV. I'd be mad.
I mean,
yeah, no.
He says emphatically before he becomes the world's biggest fan of this feature, I will never use this feature.
You know what though? I'm telling you, you're watching the World Cup and having real-time stats. How possession stats, stuff, plus tweets.
I could see needing something else to do. I mean, let's face it.
There's not a lot going on. They're just running back and forth.
It's a field with a couple of guys on it. I mean,
There's a goal every half hour. Yeah.
The field-to-person ratio is so much bigger than it is in, say, basketball.
Yeah. No, you're right. Academy Awards, that'd be fun. Watching the gossipy tweets.
Yeah.
But not during episodic television.
Okay. I mean, to be fair, we've
terrible.
live blog events. Like, we've done that, I guess. I don't know. Not in real life. I just can't deal with it. If I watch the Game of Thrones or, a basketball game or whatever, I just want to do that.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you.
I don't even like it when my kid walks in the room. It's like, get out of here. I'm doing something.
Focus.
The house is on fire. I don't care. The basketball.
But you have the ability to focus, which I think modern America lacks.
Yeah, it's a struggle. I mean, and the screens don't help.
No.
This is like, the first step is giving up the carbonated sugar water. The first step is giving up.
You sound like a grump.
Why? What?
You kids
have to be entertained all the time. What is wrong with you?
Pay attention. We're trying to forget that we're all going to die.
I mean, you're right. It's a giant fantasy to escape from our miserable lives.
Life is so horrific.
That's the point. I need two of them.
I think you should give classes on how to escape better by focusing on one thing at a time.
Oh, God. I know, Leo, the one thing I'm perfectly sure of is this doesn't get any less miserable as I get older. That's the problem.
You're old before your time, Mr. Thurrott.
Yep.
Old before your time. That's all I can say. Oh. What else? What did Microsoft announce at their keynote?
That's it, Leo. That's all they announced.
They announced a bunch of exclusive games. Right?
Finally. Anything good?
Yeah, who cares? I mean, none of this matters. I mean, Sony did too, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, some people
it's exclusive games. There's games that are going to be on multiple consoles, but maybe one of them gets it first. And then there's games that have DLC, like downloadable content, and one of them will get them first. Call of Duty does that on Xbox. And
what about the Master Chief Collection?
Right.
Do you care?
A bunch of old Halo games again. I mean, no. And by the way, I will probably play through every one of those games like the walking sap that I am. But I don't know. I mean, it's mostly to get the.
I gotta say, I wanted a Call of Duty cat. I heard that was not announced. So
I do too. We've talked about this. How much more awesome it would be than the dog.
Yeah. So that wasn't there. But yeah.
Someday.
There was a list of games. I just saw them. I can run through them if anyone cares. Sunset Overdrive. I don't know what any of these are. I'm just going to read this list.
This'll be
Sunset
good.
Overdrive.
This is like somebody
Forza.
reading the phone book in a foreign language. Go ahead.
Forza Horizon 2.
Yeah.
How about Ori and the
Race
Blind
game.
Forest?
Ori and the Blind Forest. That's an exclusive, huh? I've been waiting for that. That's a reimagining of of Central European fairy tales. It's very exciting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
No,
Dance
I'm making
Central
that up.
Spotlight.
Oh,
That
yeah.
one actually uses Connect. There's
Yeah.
one that used Connect.
Yeah, good.
Disney's Fantasia, Music Evolved. Yeah. Project Spark.
Project
Killer Instinct
Spark.
Season 2.
What is it?
This is going to be the episode where Mary Jo bores us by talking about video games.
It's a first. Mary Jo Foley
Fable
bores us.
Legends.
Say-
Multiplayer, guys.
Wow.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
don't
That's
know.
your exclusive games for the holidays. And then there's a whole other list of other blockbuster games, which I will not read.
Gears of War? Is that
They
dead?
didn't say anything about Gears of War.
No,
No,
they
no.
didn't.
Microsoft bought that right from
Halo?
Halo. Well, there's a Halo 5 will be next year.
Next year.
Halo, what do they call it? Master Chief Collection. This is 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Oh, it's not a new. It's not a new.
No, but they're all in 1080p.
chapter.
Same graphics engines. They're not.
Wait a minute.
they're not
Wait a
doing
minute.
like
You're telling me that the Xbox One can do 1080p?
only on old games, Leo. The new stuff, apparently, I don't know. I use the Xbox One every day. I don't know why I'm jumping all over it. It's because I use it every day. That's why. That's my standard joke about everything.
I've been using it. I like it, but you know, does it degrade your television performance?
I was going to ask you. So, do you use it in your living room?
Yeah, I watch TV. Well,
You know,
my den, where I watch all my TV on my OLED, beautiful OLED
Right, but I mean,
display.
use it for TV. I mean, you
Yeah,
pass the
everything.
TV.
Yeah,
So you must know there's a slight delay on that, isn't there?
yeah. And
Yeah, I mean, I think that's
I think they fixed it in an update, but for a while it would crash, and then everything
Yeah.
would freeze, and I would have to reboot the machine. That only happened a few times.
There's always, there's always this feature that's going to be the trend-setting, big, innovative thing, and then it turns out to be the thing no one ever uses. And
I use
I have that-
Xbox Pause all the time
yes,
because I pee a lot.
right. Okay.
Other than that, but no, I
Reflects in the
pass it
originals.
through. But I'm just wondering, does it degrade the signal? Because I got to tell you, I'm watching Game of
degrade the signal?
Thrones. Yeah, I'm watching Game of Thrones, and it's a pass through the Xbox One. But when it's full screen, you don't know the Xbox One's there.
HD
But the
pass through
compression in Game of Thrones, because last Sunday was a very dark episode, a lot of night scenes, was terrible. The macro blocking
really?
was horrible. I could barely watch it. And I'm thinking, gosh, maybe I should get the Xbox One out and see if that's it seems like a pass-through should not make any difference.
What you should do is record a show and watch 5 or 10 minutes, and then unplug it and watch 5 or 10 minutes again and see.
Yeah, because I have the
I'm not
TiVo too on that, so it's going.
Yeah.
It's going
through three
The
things.
TiVo's the cable box because it's got a cable card.
Oh, okay. No,
And
that should
be
work.
fine.
I don't.
Should be fine. And I'm not watching a
It's
TiVo
on or off.
version.
Leo, it's not like there's a signal degradation over the length of it. It's just it's on or it's off. I mean,
I would think
it
it's
should.
pass through is just.
Yeah, it's HDMI.
So I'm just blaming then Comcast for over compressing HBO.
Right. When you said compression, the first thing I thought was, who's your cable company?
Yeah.
And it's probably them.
It's the evil empire, the cable town folks. Whose hair do you have today?
Michael Douglas.
Okay.
I
Just
don't know
checking.
And he's
so
like 65
muggy
years old. So
here. That is why.
Is it humid? It's humid.
Yeah.
You guys have humid hair. Okay.
it is humid, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I also need a haircut. I don't know what's going on here.
You look great.
I don't usually think. I don't usually
know
have
what?
to think about my hair.
You're a handsome man.
Right. Well, okay. Thank you, I guess. But it's,
All right. Well, I guess we're not going to talk about this anymore. We're done with E3. That's kind of amazing. Did they introduce?
Well,
you say
okay,
they
but-
introduced Call of Duty Cat?
no, they did not.
No.
There was a new
I
Call of Duty
wanted-
game that they highlighted for the first time, but no cat.
No cat.
The dog in Call of Duty is useless. If you play multiplayer, what you know is that if you have a dog, it does nothing. But that the dog on the other team will kill you instantly. There's nothing you can do about it. One of the things, I don't mean to say I like to do this, but one of the things I witnessed, in fact, one of my recordings of this is how stupid the dog is you can trap the dog on it, like someone else's dog on your team. Because he follows his master around. If you're going up a staircase or through a doorway, you can stand there and it can't get by you. And then it just sits there running in place and it just never stops trying to get through the door. And you could stand there for the entire life of the animal and it will just place. It's really.
Will it keel over at some point?
Eventually, it disappears because it times out. It's really stupid.
And that's on your upload.
By the way, I do have a video of that.
I will look at that. Yeah.
And if there was a cat, I mean, obviously the cat could, be bounding right up the thing. It'd be great.
Oh yeah, it'd be awesome.
Cat would be so crucial to this game.
Big metal claws.
Like a swarming attack of cats. How awesome! It would just wipe out the entire. Like, right? You ever hear raccoons fighting outside? The terrible sounds that they make.
It's horrible.
It'd be like that.
Peacocks. Peacocks sound like somebody's dying outside your door.
Yeah, I thought someone was getting murdered outside of some raccoons going to town on each other.
It's amazing. All right.
So that's E3.
That's E3 in a nutshell.
E3.
God, I'm depressed. I am
Any questions?
so depressed. All right, let's take a break so everybody can recoup. Let's think about what we've learned here today. And talk about lynda.com. Lynda.com. What would you like to learn today? Maybe you want to learn game development. Maybe you see an opportunity here to leap into the fray. Lynda.com is a great place to learn all sorts of stuff. Look at all the 3D animation software they teach you. 3D Studio Max, After Effects, Blender, Cinema 4D, Flash Professional, Maya, Mudbox, Photoshop, Unity, ZBrush. You can learn character animation, game design, materials, modeling, particles, product design, rendering. That's just 3D and animation. There's also, if you wanted to record a record album, the experts at lynda.com could teach you how. And when I say experts, these are guys who actually work in recording studios. Very famous folks. I know from the Photoshop group, because it's some of the people we work with all the time. At TWiT, people like the great Burt Monroy, his Photoshop shows. Oh, so good. Learn how to shoot and edit video, how to design websites, game design. Let's take a look at the game design classes at lynda.com. Unity, that'd be good to know. Up and running with Flash, let's not do that. This is Cinema 4D, vehicle rigging in Maya. Talk about, now here's the beauty of this. Okay, so Adam Crespi is teaching a great class. It's definitely intermediate. You can then look, when you go to the class, look at transcripts of the class. You can go see a course introduction without becoming a member, so you can get an idea of what these classes will be. If you want to learn a specific thing, you can actually go to the transcript, search for it, and jump to that part of the video. There are over 2,500 courses on here with more added every single week. They're beautifully produced. And the beauty, the way they do this, which is really great, is you get unlimited access, $25 a month to everything. So you don't have to pick your course and pay by the course or anything. And if you want the premium plan at $37.50 a month, you'll get, and for something like this, it's probably worth it, you'll get the exercise files so you can follow along as well. Lynda.com. I'm a big fan. I know you will be. That's why we've arranged a 7-day free trial, a week free, any course, whether you have 15 minutes or 15 hours, you can learn from start to finish at your own pace. You can beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Lynda.com. They give you this in many cases is the training that the companies who make this software give their own team. SEO, you want to learn Google AdWords, Google Analytics. You want to learn how to use Word, Excel, PowerPoint better. Lynda.com, lynda.com/windows for your free 7-day trial. Are you a Mary Jo fan? You want to get started with Windows Azure?
Hadoop.
Hadoop.
Is there a Hadoop class?
Oh, wouldn't that be awesome? Let's just see. There can't be a Hadoop class.
If there isn't, I know who can narrate one.
Class, Leo.
The OneNote classes are really good, highly recommended. Up and running with Azure. Up and running with Azure or with Amazon Web Services. Overview of data services. Reviewing the components within application platforms. I don't even understand this stuff. So yes, there are some courses that cover Hadoop. Up and running with Azure would be a great way to get started with Azure. Look at that. That is Visual Studio Express 2012 for web. I'm telling you, Lynda, lynda.com/windows. We give staff members access to our Lynda account so that they can get trained. Corporate accounts available too. Lynda.com, lynda.com/windows. Paul Thurrott, Mary Jo Foley. We're talking Microsoft on Windows Weekly. The Windows 8.1 upgrade. It's what's for dinner.
Whether you want it or not.
Yep. It was for dinner yesterday.
To be fair, you should want it for dinner.
Yeah, why wouldn't you want it?
It's a good dinner.
How about businesses? Are there reasons they might not want the update?
Honestly, I don't think so, unless there's a compatibility issue.
They went to 8.1. They should go for the update.
Yeah.
You know what, though? It's just fair to because this actually happens, and I witnessed this in my comments. I witnessed this via email. Both Mary Jo and I think will agree that this is a great update. There's all kinds of good reasons to have it. There's really no downside to it. I get complaints about this thing every single day.
Really?
Yeah.
Every single day. Yep, because there is nothing that Microsoft can do that will please everybody. And it amazes me is some of the innocuous things that can get complaints. For example, the modern apps. So you're running an app full screen, like the Mail app or the Calendar app with a mouse. When you go into that app and you move the mouse around, and actually, and it's not even happening. There you go. If you move the mouse to the top of the screen, this little like a menu bar, not a menu bar, like a toolbar, I guess, or a window bar, or whatever you want to call it, command bar, kind of appears at the top. It drives people insane. I have no idea why. You have to really try to see it. It makes people crazy. They don't want that. And someone will come out with a utility, I'm sure, that will remove it, and this will make their day until they can find something new to complain about. But honestly, I think that's one of the best reasons to have it. I mean, if you're using it on a regular computer, it's amazing to me.
So okay, let's just clarify this.
Yep.
If you have a Windows 8 machine and you didn't go to Windows 8.1, you're okay. But if you went to Windows 8.1, you must install the update, and that appears as a Windows update.
Yep.
Is that right?
Comes through Windows Update.
And it's
arguably
automatic.
a set of Windows updates.
Now,
but it's
here's
not
somebody in the chat room who says, the Woozle says, my wife's Lenovo Yoga refuses to do the update. Sometimes people get stuck, right? What do they do? What should they do?
So I don't know that I have a prescription for fixing that, but this has been addressed on the Microsoft support forum. So this happens to people, and you'd have to go check out the various.
This has happened always. Is sometimes updates get stuck, and that's just because the nature.
A lot of it has to do with particular configurations. So when someone comes to me and says, "Hey, this doesn't work," I mean, the fact that I can come back and say I've installed it on 11 PCs and I never had a problem once doesn't help them in the slightest.
No.
But it also makes it difficult for someone like me to troubleshoot it. Right. So you kind of, at this point, you have to go to the wider body of users in Microsoft support, because this is out in the world. There are other people who have have these same issues.
That's the beauty of it. With so many users, there's definitely somebody with a Lenovo Yoga that's having the same problem.
The double edge of the sword, because the other problem is, you can only do so much testing, even Microsoft, and sometimes things get out in the world, and people with their unique configurations can often run into new problems.
But we should clarify who had to update this week and why they had to.
Okay.
Right. So
please.
If you already were running Windows 8.1 and you're a consumer, somebody who gets it on your own, not through work, not through WSUS or Windows Update Services, who probably gets it through automatic updates. You probably already have it even, but you should check, make sure that you have it. And if you do not, you need to upgrade to the update, because if you don't, you're not going to get any more patches and fixes from Microsoft for the operating system. As of yesterday.
They'll show you.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But if you're a business customer and you're somebody who your company rolls it out to you with System Center Configuration Manager or Windows Server Update Services, you still have until August 12th to put Update 1 on your machine.
And you means your IT department. You're not going to do anything. Right. Don't start messing with this.
Exactly.
I mean, they're basically giving businesses 2 more months to test this against their own software to make sure everything works properly.
Right. And if you're on Windows 8 and you never went to 8.1, you actually have until 2016 to move to Windows 8.1 update. Which
raises the question I kind of added to the notes, which is, it's sort of rhetorical because I think I know the answer, but I'm sorry, I will just call it update. The Windows 8.1 update, all right, I call it update 1 just to clarify it, but what I think of as update 1 is a requirement for Windows 8.1. You have to get it, and then you can move forward with updates. Why isn't it an update for 8.0? I mean, if you think about 8.1 as essentially the latest version of Windows 8, why isn't 8.1 and then update 1 already a required update for Windows 8.0?
It leads to a conspiracy theory almost.
Yeah, it doesn't. But
well, okay. I'll
I'll
say what
like
people are thinking.
Yeah.
Which is, oh, they screwed something up badly in 8.1, and they're making people fix it.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Oh, wow.
That they,
So I think what it ties down to is Microsoft has a formalized life cycle support agreement that it has with businesses, and when it releases a major revision of an OS, it essentially agrees to, I think it's 10 years, I believe, of support, 5 of getting the term wrong, mainstream support, and 5 of extended support, 5 years each, is a standard deal, and that's the minimum. And so, Mike, we can all agree that Windows 8.0 out of the box was kind of half broken, but it doesn't matter. By releasing that thing as a 0.0 release, they're bound to support that thing.
So they don't legalistically, they don't have the option to say, we're not going to give you updates.
Right. That's
saying.
my guess, and sort of educated guess. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to support it in the sense that they're going to release lots of new apps for it, put out a service pack, anything like that. I mean, I think you'll see security updates. And so every month when Patch Tuesday comes, they'll have to fork however they do it. I mean, they probably work the same between the OSs, but, there's a version for Windows 8, a version for Windows 8.1.
Right.
They have to make sure that it works on both.
Right.
And
so I think that's the agreement.
I think you're right about the life cycle part. And, it's the whole distinction of how they delivered the operating system, too. Remember, 8 to 8.1 came through the store, and 8.1 to update came through Windows Update. So one was more a full update to the OS, and one was more kind of like almost like a patch, right?
It's almost, I don't even know what to call it. In the history of Windows, there has never been an OS delivered like that ever, not once. And they've, we'll see. I don't think they ever do it again. I would be surprised if they did.
Yeah. I wonder what they do with Threshold, Windows 9, or whatever that ends up being called. Does that come through the store, or does that go through Windows Update?
They'll use discs again for that one.
Discs, yeah. Drones. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's part of the confusion. And, some people still say to me, I wanted to go to 8.1 and I could never figure out how to do it because it was hard to find in the store. And I didn't even know I was supposed to look in the store, even though we told them many times, look in the store. But I tried to do it on somebody else's
that's
PC
an update. Certain people haven't been able to make that one work either.
It was really hard to find.
You could find it and it doesn't install or it doesn't download. No. You have no idea why. That's a tough thing to troubleshoot too. Yeah,
I know. Crazy. So yeah, that's why, and that's why this is so confusing. So many people said to me, so here's another question that came up. If I am a Windows 8.1 user and I didn't upgrade to update as of yesterday, now what? I'm like, well, you still can do it after the fact, but you're just not going to be patched until you do it.
Yeah, so, the OS doesn't stop working. You don't get warning signals or anything like that. It's just, it works fine. You just don't. Right. You'll go into Windows Update, and what you'll see is that update, and that'll be it.
And I think yesterday's Patch Tuesday, there were some pretty major updates for Windows 8.1.
Yeah, there were.
Update, right? So,
including one that we don't have in the notes. I just wrote something about this morning. The OneDrive, I don't want to call it an app. I'm not sure what else to call it, but the OneDrive application, the desktop version of OneDrive, if you will, was updated significantly. It looks and works a lot more like the version from Windows 7, which is kind of interesting in that you get the same sorts of options when you click and right-click. But it also works, oddly enough, like the settings part of the modern app. And I think this is a concession, part of the ongoing concessions to desktop users, where I don't ever want to go into the modern environment to do any kind of settings. I want to do it from the desktop. And so they've added that back, actually, for the most part, to the desktop version. It's actually kind of a cool thing.
So you can pause, right? Pause your syncing. And
you can pause syncing. You can, what does it say? What's the term?
It's like more granularity in the settings. Yeah.
Yeah, there used to be 2 options when you right-clicked, and now there are about 8 or 10. And I always kind of hated this, but in the past, in Windows 8 only, Windows 8, Windows 8.1, when you single-clicked on it, you would get a file explorer window with with OneDrive. Now it's kind of like Windows 7, where you get those options instead, and you can click on something to go see the file explorer view, because that doesn't seem like the type of thing you would click on to see file explorer. So they've made it a lot better, and they've lessened the chances of you having to go into the modern interface. So if you want to manage your storage, for example, actually that loads, of course, that actually does load the modern interface, which is annoying. But you can go into settings and see the various options. It's not exactly the same as in Windows 7 because I'm going down a rabbit hole. I'm sorry. One of the big improvements that they made between Windows 7 and Windows 8 was that in Windows 7 you can optionally say, well, I don't want to sync all of my OneDrive because it's huge, but you can check off the folders that you want. But if you don't select folders to view in the Windows 7 Windows Explorer, they just don't appear. You don't even know they're there. Whereas in Windows 8, they have that new technology where they show you everything in OneDrive. So even if it's not on your computer, you can see it. You can double click on a file. It will load from the internet and show you the file. And then at that point, it becomes synced. And so that's a big change. And so the settings interface for the Windows 8 version of OneDrive has changed to reflect that. But you can do things like, say, make all of my files available, which is neat because there was never an easy one-check way to do that. And then if it's taking up too much space, you can make all of your files online only all in one whack. And there was no easy way to do that either before. So there's some nice changes. That's a nice change. Have I lost everybody? Sorry.
No, I'm listening. I'm listening. Not understanding, but I'm listening.
People are asking what next for Windows 8.1, because we keep calling this Update 1, even though the official name is Update. But
implying an Update 2, in other words.
We still believe there's an Update 2, still probably coming in August. And I've had a few people see tips saying there's an Update 3 coming. I hear no Update 3. It's going to be Update 2, or whatever they end up calling that, in August. And then the next thing after that is Threshold, which is the next big OS update.
It just seems too soon.
Threshold does?
Yeah. I know it's not, but it feels like we're just now getting kind of comfortable with 8, and now here comes Threshold.
Well, 8 needs a lot of help and has needed a lot of help. And 8.1 went a long way. 8.1 update went a long way. But there's more to be done, and we know what some of those pieces are. And I think given the recent information that they're going to push back some of the major functional changes that are coming, the optional new start menu, the floating modern windows and so forth, to Threshold. I mean, it makes sense to not have not push that back any further and just have that be the next big release. Have it be next spring, not the following spring.
It'll be much like Windows 8, just updated, right? Or no?
Update 2, you mean?
No, Threshold.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if you think about Windows 7 was like a refinement of Windows Vista.
Yeah, they were very similar, right?
Everyone hated Vista, and everyone loved Windows 7. I think the goal for Threshold is to do that again. Finally, and it will take them in this case, I guess, with the 3-4 releases, however you want to say it. But take this thing that we did that no one liked, and respond to feedback and answer all the concerns and rename it essentially, because that's actually a big part of acceptance. The name is tainted.
Right. And if all the things we're starting to hear about actually are in Threshold, we're hearing start menu, we're hearing the windowed Metro apps and the desktop, the new SKUs, including one that will work on phone and smaller tablets that's the ARM-based SKU. There's going to be a lot of things, so it is going to be a pretty major update. And I'm sure there's lots of other features too that we have.
It should, like I said earlier, Microsoft can't please everybody all the time, and we know that. But there should be something there to please everybody, in the sense that, obviously, and the desktop users have made their voices very clear and loud. They don't like being forced to use this touch stuff. They don't like it. And I think they've done a good job moving in the right direction for those people, and that will continue. On the flip side, and I don't know that we talk about this enough, there are people who really like Windows Phone. There are people who really like Windows RT. There are people who like that Metro environment, and they don't want to have to be forced to go to the desktop. They don't want to have to use the desktop to use Office, And there are all these things coming that will make it better for them as well. And we can think of that as kind of a win-win, and when we talked in the past about how the desktop is going away and everybody, kind of their knees hit together and they got all nervous and everything. I mean, I think because of the feedback, I was going to say planning, we'll call it feedback, the future has become a little more nuanced, and there's going to be something for everybody now. And obviously that's the right approach.
I have to admit, I hate to do it, but I'm kind of getting used to Windows 8 or 8.1. And I feel comfortable with it now.
Yeah.
So that's good. They're going to change it, and that'll make me.
Just when you're feeling good about it.
Well, that's kind of what I mean. It's like, but if it is like Windows 7 was to Vista, that will be great.
But if you like Windows 8, whatever, the way it is now, and you're using it on a touch machine,
yeah. I
mean, the truth is that's actually not going to change.
Right.
It's going to get better. I mean, it will be refined and evolved and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I think this is the thing. This always confuses me. I mean, one of the concerns I have with Update 1 is that they've changed some UIs so that they work more naturally for desktop users with a mouse and a keyboard, but not others, And that's a lot of work, and I get that, but it's the inconsistencies that kind of make it tough. And so when you right-click on the Start screen or on the All Apps screen, and you get a little context menu like you would on the desktop, I think desktop users would say, that's great, this works the way I expect, or most of them would. When you right-click in any app, though, and you get an app bar, which is the touch interface that you usually get from sliding your finger in from the side of the top or bottom of the screen, that's inconsistent. And so, you can't just, wave your magic wand and change everything. I mean, it takes a while, and I think that's kind of what they're working on now. Yeah. So I don't think it will, again, depending on how you approach Windows, it should work the way you want it to work, or work the way that makes the most sense for that kind of hardware. And I think that's the goal. And certainly wasn't what they achieved with Windows 8.
They're not doing away with Metro,
No,
Metro start screen. No, but you still see people say, tell me when threshold's out so we can get rid of the start screen. That's not going to go away. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but the important thing is they're going to do what they should have done in 2012, which was they're not going to keep the legacy options. They're not actually doing what they should have done, but they're going to give you that option to have a start menu. It's not going to be the Windows 7 start menu, but and that was one of the screwy things about Windows 8 was that they removed the legacy UIs somewhat unnecessarily, and it was part of the mad bid of that team to put their own mark on Windows and erase the past, Yeah.
And to make it a mobile first, touch first operating system, even though that wasn't necessarily what the hardware ended up being when it became available for Windows 8. So.
No, and Microsoft has worked with these guys for long enough to understand that their partners were going to screw them over at the last second. I don't know why that was a surprise, but
or at least
hey, here's
take
a bunch of netbook class computers without touch. Enjoy Windows 8. Yeah.
I think they should have anticipated the delay, given that what had happened in the past.
That's a big
change. It takes a while
hardware,
to come out with new stuff.
Well, by the way, if you've used Windows 8, maybe this is because I used Windows 8 in touch on a touch laptop, the S7, for a long time, and then I went to a non-touch VM version of it on my Mac, and I'm perfectly comfortable with it. But that's because I know where the Charms bar is. I know how to get there. I do have to say, there is one little thing that's quite annoying. And you can maybe tell me if I'm wrong, but it looks to me that if you use it on non-touch hardware, you still get this new thing in Windows 8.1 with a big touch here, swipe here arrows that obscure the whole UI and won't go away until you swipe.
Until you actually do it. Yeah.
And since I'm on a non-touch machine, I can't. So I actually
it still works with the mouse. You just have to do the action with the mouse.
You could swipe, but no, you can't on a virtual.
You can't swipe.
You can't on a virtual.
It's harder on a virtual machine. So if you run it full screen, what you can do is just move the mouse up into the corner and then move down the side of the screen. That will do it.
Oh, okay. So you swipe with the mouse.
It's not the same gesture that you use with touch.
And by the way, not all of them work. Because, yes, it's true you can swipe down with a mouse and shrink a Metro and throw it away.
You can get rid of all of those with a mouse. Yes.
I finally had to go into the UI.
It is absolutely harder. If you're in a floating window in a virtual machine, it's harder.
And I couldn't, I couldn't go on because it was obscuring the part of the UI I needed to touch. And
look, we really need you to play with the switcher, Leo. Can you just drop everything and do that right now?
I had to go online on another computer and search for how do I get rid of these UI. Yeah. Wow. And then there is a setting that you can turn it off in the control panel. But gosh, it was amazing. It was it was like like they did the right thing, but they weren't smart enough to look to see if I'm on a touch machine.
Did they do the right thing? That's an interesting comment. I
think teaching that is good.
In Windows 8. I mean, that's new to 8.1, right?
Right. And teaching people, saying, "Here, try this," is good. Finding the right time to do that is probably an issue. You know, I'm in
Windows
the
8
middle
was
of creating
like,
this,
you know,
the month-end spreadsheet. I got 3 minutes to finish this and give it to my CEO, and I'm not really wanting to learn how to touch right now. That kind of thing is a little annoying, right?
a little touchy
You don't get to you don't get to choose. No, it's time for you to take a lesson.
I'm glad at least they finally provided lessons.
I think they needed to do that, yeah.
With Windows 8, that was a crime.
Yep.
There was no
They
help.
admitted this. I mean, I don't remember the figure anymore, but Julie Larson Green once said something to the effect of, our user research showed us that after, I don't know, certain X number of days of usage, that 70% of users had figured out how to access the charms. It was like, wait a minute. You're telling me that you were stranded, 300 million people, no idea how to navigate the system, and you decided to ship it like that? I mean, that was a crazy admission. Crazy.
Yeah. So,
mistakes were made. I think it's fair to say.
Mistakes are made. Mistakes are being fixed.
Yeah. So, So I'm not going to worry about threshold. It will just be, it'll be like Windows. If it's like Windows 7 was to Vista, I will be thrilled.
Yes, it will be that. And that people, the reviews will all say this is the Windows they should have shipped. It's so easy to predict how this is going to go. But you know what? I think it's going to be all good news. I really do. I think it's going to be fine.
Does Microsoft do this on purpose, this TikTok thing? They don't actually think we're going to do a TikTok.
No, you're suggesting a premeditation and intelligence that does not exist. It's just, this is, no.
Okay.
They're not evil geniuses. They're
Stewie should have been the new CEO.
Yeah.
Surface Pro ad is 3 ad is here, which is good because all I've seen for a long time is Surface 2 ads. But they finally got an ad, and you say not bad.
I think it's nice. What do you think about it, Mary Jo?
Should we watch it? You want to watch it?
Yeah, watch it. I think it's
That's pretty short.
Yeah, and now for people not watching on video, we'll describe what's going on in this.
It's like the Windows XP ad where people fly around.
Right. Hello. Sequence is short and screen simulated. I love they do that now.
Oh, by the way, pay attention to the fine print. There's a lot of it.
There's a lot of it. And why isn't it playing? Oh, crud.
Yeah, because it's YouTube, Leo.
It's YouTube. Maybe if I go straight to YouTube, it'll play better. Hello. Hello, YouTube.
Okay, well, as you can see,
this
it's
is
a great
why we
ad.
can't
They didn't
have
pull
nice
this ad,
things.
did they? Because I saw they pulled some ad.
Oh, really?
Well, but it's here. And
actually, this is notable because it's only available in 480p for some reason. There's no there wasn't last time I looked an HD version of it.
Oh, that's weird too.
Yeah.
It seems like it's a little early to have this ad out, except that as of this week, you could go to your Best Buys and your Microsoft.
Yeah, so
stores
it was tied to that, by the way. So Microsoft announced the new ad and the in-store tryout thing.
Well, I think you're going to have to describe the ad because.
All right, so there's an ad. I've not seen it on TV, but apparently it's on TV, and it shows off the capabilities of the device, which, if you think about it from a high level, haven't really changed from the original Surface. A Surface Pro, it's a tablet that can be a PC. You can clip on a keyboard. You can use it like a tablet. You can write on it with a pen. It's a full PC, so it runs Office and all that stuff. And that's all great. I mean, some of the fine print is a bit troubling because, and again, you can mince words all you want, but the keyboard doesn't come with it, for one thing. And so you can clip on a keyboard. Yes, you can, but you have to pay for that keyboard as additional. You can write on it with a pen. The pen does come with it, and that's nice. And you can use Office. Office does not come with it. You have to pay for that. I think advertising is tough like this. I want to at least be consistent because when I complain about Apple advertising or whatever it is, I mean, I don't just do this for other companies. I mean, Microsoft is obviously can be as guilty as anyone. And it's a tough message with the Surface Pro 3 because I like that there are keyboard choices because you have colors, and I think people like that. But you need to mentally factor in that $130 extra. And then you got to pay for Office, which is a really strange requirement. And it kind of boils down to Microsoft's licensing. I mean, the way when you think about it, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But they've made this really valuable thing available for free only on the cheapest version of Windows and only on the cheapest PCs. And so if you can get a PC or a tablet, like a mini tablet even, that runs Windows 8.1 and not Windows 8.1 Pro, and it costs under a certain amount, I'm not sure what the threshold is there, you get a free version of Office. But if you buy a really expensive, nice computer, you don't get a free version of Office, and it's a little strange.
Yeah, we've been speculating maybe the Gemini Metro-style apps will be free.
Take care of that, yeah.
for Windows users. So if that happens, then you won't have to worry. Plus, you can use Office Online for free, which is what I use on that device.
So it's like it has an always online requirement like the Xbox One. So anyway, it's not. I don't mean to trash it. Honestly, compared to some of the silly click-in ads they've had, the guys dancing around the table and all that stuff. Actually, this ad's pretty good, and
it's very straightforward, right?
Overall, I like it.
No frills.
Sorry, I can't play it. I apologize.
I don't know. Yeah, that's so strange. Have you tried a different browser?
I did. I just tried it.
I think I saw somewhere they pulled that ad.
Maybe it's maybe.
Let me look.
But I don't know, or did something.
It was really low quality. I mean,
apparently somebody in the chat room says they now have a 720p version on there.
Yeah, no, I can play it here.
Yeah, it's me. I think Comcast is punishing me for not being quite as faithful to them as they believe they do.
Well, they heard you trashing them earlier. That was
exactly.
All of a sudden, things stop working.
Oh, you think it's bad now, Laporte?
Yeah.
We're deleting all of your recorded TV shows. I hope you didn't want to watch the end of Veep because it's not happening.
That was good. I did see that. That was awesome.
Yeah.
No spoilers. I don't like to spoil a comedy show. But anyway. Surface firmware update coming next week.
No, so actually they arrived this week.
Oh, it was on Patch Tuesday. Oh, okay.
Yep.
But
Mary
Jo, what's the punchline to this story?
Oh, man, there's so many parts. So the only Surfaces that got patched on Patch Tuesday were the Surface Pro 2 and the Surface 2. So those were the second generation Surfaces, ARM and Intel based ones. And the first generation Surfaces did not get patched. Surface Pro 3 did not, but we hear that still will get patched before they go on sale on June 20th. What people got in this bunch of patches, as firmware patches for the Surface, were a lot of fixes for power and battery life issues that people have been having in connection with the covers. And that's a good thing.
Except
that's a very good thing.
They were having those issues on Surface Pro 1.
Oh, yeah.
And
they're having those same issues.
On Pro 1.
And they didn't get fixed on the Surface Pro 1. I also am curious if anything happened to these firmware updates, because I'm hearing from people who are not in the U.S. I've heard from one person in the U.K., one in Australia, that they can't even get these updates. Right. So I've asked Microsoft if they pulled them for some reason or are holding back or throttling the distribution of them outside, but I haven't heard back yet if that's happening.
So my experience with Surface Pro firmware updates suggests like some form of magic is involved, because it seems like sometimes you have to run Windows Update and you reboot. And if you've run Windows for any amount of time, you get it. You reboot, you go to Windows Update again, because there's often more stuff there, and sometimes it seems like you have to do that a couple of times and it just shows up. And I've gotten those kind of reports from people too, where they didn't see it, they were surprised by it. And I had one guy today, I don't know if it was email or on Twitter, but he said, I've been looking for this thing because you wrote about it and wanted to get it. And a couple of reboots later, he got one from March. He's,
oh, really?
Like a March firmware update. It's like, what is this? You might have a few to go through then. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's supposed to just come to you automatically, right, through Windows Update, or you can go in and force it by looking for an update proactively. That's what I did just to see if there were any updates for the Surface Pro 3 yesterday, and I didn't get any firmware.
Yeah, and I've been looking for that, and hopefully they do deliver on that as they promise, because I think we talked about this before, but I had that problem last week in Colorado. I had it after the show as well one time, but now that I know how to fix it, I'm a little less skittish when it happens. But it's a tough thing when you're on the road. You bring the one computer. I mean, that doesn't work.
Yeah, we've talked about that. So there's this weird bug with the Surface Pro 3 where sometimes after you charge it using the new charging cable, the date and the time come back wrong, and you can't turn the machine on easily. You have to really fiddle with it. And they know. They say they're going to fix that.
Yeah, I mean, the morning that happened, I had to use someone's iPad to moderate comments on my website. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that is?
Can I use your iPad? I can't use mine.
That's sort of a computer, right? Could I
yeah. That's painful.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm going to wait on the Surface Pro 3. I was thinking of getting one.
Well, you know what? We have a week or so.
Yeah.
They're quiet. I mean, they're not you can't go to the Surface guys and say, hey, what's going on? They're like, all right, listen, this is, they're not going to talk about anything. So they said they're going to fix it. I mean, I guess we'll take them at their word.
Reassurance, just a little like.
Yeah.
Well, you know what it is when you have something. This is new. It's new hardware, right? And there's also new capabilities here. This is the first, to my knowledge, Haswell-based machine that has connected standby.
Yeah.
It's tied to what's not working.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. All right.
There's always that fear that this can't be fixed with a software thing or something. You know what I mean? We don't really know. I mean, so I'm not saying I'm just the way I am. I worry about these things, but you wonder. I mean, and obviously, if that doesn't work out, you can turn all that stuff off. It will be fine. I mean, people have said to me, why don't you just turn off hibernation or whatever? Because it has something to do with the transition between those power management states.
On every computer I've ever used, Mac, PC, hibernation is
there's something about it. There's a lot of things in life that are great ideas on paper, and then the implementation is not great.
The idea of hibernation is that you save the contents of memory to disk, and then you really go into an off state. And when you restore, you turn back on and load RAM from the disk. And in theory, you'll be back to where you were. And it so rarely works.
Yeah.
It's just like a bad idea.
It's so, it boots a little more quickly than a cold boot, obviously. You return to the previous state, which is valuable. As power management gets more sophisticated, and obviously Microsoft, Apple, whatever, they want, you want to make these computers more device-like, more seamless, all that kind of stuff. You think, well, okay, hibernation is cute, but maybe we could change hibernation. So maybe there's like a little heartbeat thing occurring, and it could actually download updates in the background with this like mini lifeline to the internet. And that way, when you came back up, you could just, you'd be up to date too. And God, it's like an explosion of stupidity when you try to, do the right thing. I mean, it's just, you know what I mean? Like it's a good idea.
Yeah.
But it just, this PC architecture dates back.
Yeah.
A long time. It's really not super sophisticated at the heart of things. And I don't know. I think we're reaching that weird point where maybe it's time
I think that's the pro tip that everybody should know. Turn off hibernation.
And I'm not going to write that pro tip until Microsoft fixes this problem so I can make sure it's fixed. And then I'm probably going to turn off hibernation because I'm not going to do it now. I want to.
Because you want to see it work.
I want to see it work.
Yeah.
There are, battery saver. It's not battery saver. There are kind of battery configuration tools built into Windows. You can look at stuff, and it tells me that connected standby is not available on this computer.
Oh, interesting.
I just think it doesn't know how to look for it on the computer. No, I think it doesn't understand it because it looks at it and says, well, you have a core processor. It couldn't possibly have connected standby.
This has been a problem. I go back to Windows 95. I mean, ACPI, getting the right kernel. I mean, I've been answering the questions about
USB, plug and play.
Plug
and play.
Right. Yeah.
You ever do this? When was the first time? Remember, you can do the hot swapping of cards inside of a computer, like a server, typically, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This works, they tell you. This will work. Here's a card. Go ahead, put it in your server. I dare you. Nobody would ever do this.
No.
Nobody would ever do this. No. I don't care if this works. This thing's shutting down. It's getting unplugged.
Yeah.
I'm putting on a static-free glove.
That's a bad idea.
I'm going to plug it in, and then I'm going to turn it back on. There's nobody does that. That's crazy. You hear it, you nod your head, and you're like, yeah. No, I'm not doing that. No, not with my hardware.
Yeah, right. No, I think you nailed it. Let's say
because we've used computers,
right?
We know what they do.
But you know what? You know who gets bit by this? Newbies.
Oh yeah.
And that's the problem. And then they all call my radio show, and then they say, hibernation. What happened? It's supposed to work. They don't even know the word hibernation.
And I smelled sulfur. Yeah.
Am I possessed?
You might want to just buy an iPad.
I do periodically get calls from people who think their computer is literally possessed. Like literally. Like
I touched something to a CPU one time, and there was a pop, and the surface of the CPU actually melted. And I thought, that's not good. That's not supposed to be liquid. Yeah. Oh, just putting hardware on a computer is
don't mess with
unparalleled.
If you're gonna do that, can I recommend Carbonite Online Backup? It would be prudent before you hot swap that hard drive to back it up on Carbonite. Nice thing about Carbonite, if you are a Carbonite user, you're already back. You're backed up right now. Carbonite's automatic, continuous backup. Once that first backup set gets done, every change you make, everything that happens is automatically backed up virtually instantly. So you have, this kind of peace of mind that all my stuff is safe and not sitting next to the computer where that exploding CPU could actually catch everything on fire and lose everything. It is safe in the cloud, far, far away. I'm a big fan of Carbonite. It is very affordable, flat rate pricing. You pay once a year. They don't meter your data. It's as much data as you want. $59.99 a year for everything on a single Mac or a PC. I mean, that's less than $5 a month. I think Carbonite's great. And they do have plans for businesses. In fact, there are 1.5 million Carbonite users in the world. Of them, 50,000 are small businesses. It's a great choice for a small business. Look at their small business plans at Carbonite.com. And then you can try it free. Usually that first 2 weeks is enough to get that first, backup set done, so you're ready to go. Then you can start paying for it. And if you do, make sure you use the offer code WINDOWS because we'll get you 2 bonus months free when you buy. You got to back it up to get it back. Do it right with Carbonite online backup. And then go ahead and fry that CPU with peace of mind protection. You're safe.
Those are the days.
Yes. So have we covered the Surface updates in enough sufficient detail? Is there anything else to say? No. Now let's talk about Windows Phone 8.1 Update 1.
Yeah.
Now it's your turn.
Which, by the way, I'm sure they will call Update 1.
Because what? Why?
Because the Windows team called theirs Update.
Because they like to drive you crazy. Oh, they don't want to do anything like the Windows team does it.
Actually, they're the same team. That's the funny part.
I was going to say they're all one now.
That's what makes it funny.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
They used to call the updates for Windows Phone GDR, General Distribution Release.
That's a
1, 2,
terrible
3.
name. Nobody
now they're
knows
going
what
with Update.
Yeah,
as far
Update's
as
a good word. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so Update 1 for Windows Phone 8.1. So we should also make it really clear because Paul and I are both getting a lot of questions on Twitter about this. Windows Phone 8.1 is still not yet rolled out by any carriers for existing handsets.
Yeah.
It hasn't been rolled out yet. Even though everybody has it, they're talking about it. You can get it if you just register as a developer. But it's not being pushed yet by anybody. So I've seen people panicking saying, I don't have it yet. You're not supposed to have it yet. I think it's supposed to start rolling out
This is normal.
in the
It's
next
okay.
couple weeks.
But I don't have it yet.
Yeah.
I don't have threshold. What's going on?
I want it.
Yeah, we're already going to talk about the update to it, even though you don't have it yet. So yeah, you're going to start getting a Windows Phone 8.1 over the next couple weeks, and then it's going to be a gradual rollout, dependent on carriers, dependent on handsets. The next update to that is Update 1, which we think is probably going to come sometime late summer, fallish. It may be announced before that, but it's probably not going to roll out until then.
So I did Paul's trick to get 8.1 on my 1520.
You did, right? Yeah.
And I have had a couple of, I think 2 updates now, but that's not what you're talking about. That's just updates prior to the official release of 8.1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Updates before
that's
Update
another
1.
story its own, isn't it? I mean,
I know.
Because people, the very name Developer Preview suggests that this thing is not the RTM version of Windows 8.1, and that's actually incorrect. It is the RTM version.
That's why I did it.
But there are post-RTM updates.
Me.
There are drivers. There are firmware updates from the manufacturers.
Little bits.
Well, there's all kinds of stuff that gets added later. So that's what Mary Jo's talking about, the public release.
Right.
When you get that through your carrier, you're going to get all the other stuff.
Yeah. You're going to get all the cumulative updates to that.
Right.
And by the way,
you'll get it. By the way, if you did the
I'll get that too.
The method, you'll still get the other stuff. You're not, you're not out of it because you did it early. You'll get all the other stuff.
Yeah. You promised me that. That's why I did it.
And you'll get the firmware
I feel
updates.
very confident that nothing will go wrong.
You'll get
It won't be
firmware
like
updates
Surface
too,
Pro
like
3.
Cyan, right?
Okay.
Cyan.
I'm really happy, and it's been very reliable. I'm super glad I did it.
It's great if you don't use Xbox Music.
Oh, that's the thing that's not good?
Listen, if you want to look at a blank black screen every time you run an app, this is the update for you. But
Lord.
it really is kind of, right? I mean, it's maddening. Like you run it, blank screen, you shut it down, you run it, and then it's okay.
Oh, that's huge. There's always something
Very,
like that.
very strange.
It's beta software, Paul.
It's not beta software. That's the problem.
Not really. Yeah, that's another thing we should clarify. So Windows Phone 8.1 RTM'd, I think, in April, right?
Yeah, early April.
So what's the holdup?
Early April, Right. So the holdup is then the carriers want to test it and the carriers want to schedule when it comes out. And so, what you're going to get when you get it rolled out to you is going to be that RTM code plus all the stuff they've done since. It'll be rolled up.
And Greg told us too,
yeah,
they kind of know. It's not like releasing Windows. You could these days you could finish a Windows update, put it on the web, it'd be out there in the world. The phones are different, and they know going into it that as these things get tested by various entities, there'll be fixes. I mean, they'll find problems. They sometimes know about these problems ahead of time. That there will be problems, and we're going to fix it. We know we have a window before the public gets it.
Yeah.
So this is what we're seeing, and so we've never had a Windows Phone update where we got it early, witnessed those post RTM updates happening. Usually only inside Microsoft you would see that. And then it goes out into the world. We've only been on the receiving end of it before, so now we get to see it as it happens. And so I think it's confusing people, but, this is one of the benefits is a tough word, but it's a side effect of being involved earlier in the process than ever before. It's nice.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you get with this big update one of the big things everybody's expecting is 3D touch. This is a feature they're calling 3D touch. So the phone that Amazon is supposedly going to launch
June 18th.
June 18th.
The crotch phone.
Right.
Or something.
The crotch phone.
We don't know. We don't know exactly.
Why do you call it that?
Because if you look at the preview video,
I got you.
everybody's going, whoa.
Everybody's looking down.
Whoa. Whoa.
Wow.
It's a look, when like you step on a landmine.
Whoa.
It's like it moves with me.
What? I turn, it turns. Whoa.
Right.
So, but we think it's a 3D phone. That was the rumor.
Exactly.
Like
so this is
why would anybody want that?
Tom Warren at The Verge had a good explainer what this means, possibly. He talked about what is this 3D touch thing. So there's some things, if he's right, it'll let you do. Like if you start going towards a tile, it's going to kind of anticipate where you're going, right? And
like a proximity
I think other
thing.
people have had that too. WP Central had something on that. If you go towards a group of tiles, it'll automatically split them. Tom also said if you pick up the phone, it'll automatically turn on. That'd be another feature of this, which would actually be kind of handy. So it's those kind of things, but not the people who have current phones. I bet they're not going to get this because I would think you'd have to have a lot of new sensors or capabilities built in.
I don't think so. I think all these phones already have a proximity sensor. They have accelerometers.
Well, but the proximity has to be very sensitive about certain, every spot on the screen.
Is it that you're hovering? It senses your finger hovering over it, or do you actually?
Yeah, like that kid's toy with the magnets in them. You get the face and you drag around the beard.
Yeah.
That thing.
Yeah,
it's got to be like that, like a kind of an attraction type thing where it senses your finger coming. Yeah, it's coming toward the screen and it's anticipating the part of the screen you're pointing at.
That might be specialized.
That might need something below, in this
things like picking up the phone or moving the phone.
Yeah, that might not.
That's how accelerometer stuff.
Yeah. So we don't know how much of this is going to require new hardware versus not require new hardware. Everybody was kind of anticipating back, maybe like I think last year, people were thinking this 3D touch capability might have made it into Windows Phone 8.1. But it didn't in the end. So
I was just going to say it was expected in 8.1.
That was the rumor, right? Yeah.
Well, I think what happened was the hardware didn't appear soon enough. So some of the Nokia devices that would have shipped, say, this quarter are now shipping at the end of the year, early next year, whatever. And so they just, there was no point in putting it into the OS.
Right. One of the new hardware devices supposedly getting this capability built in is codename McLaren. EvLeaks had that. It's the Lumia McLaren, and that's supposed to be on Verizon, I think, in November, he's hearing. So, he's saying that phone will be optimized to run this update 1, and it'll be a 3D touch phone. That's the rumor on that.
See, the Amazon thing, maybe it does have all that. I thought it was more like it's a 3D screen.
More like what Android had, right?
Yeah, it's dumb. But I don't know. We'll find out June 18th.
We don't know. Yep.
And then we'll find out what 3D Touch. I think we have a better idea of what 3D Touch is on Windows Phone. We don't know what the hell Amazon's up to.
It's got to be more than an Amazon logo. I mean, I don't quite, obviously they're looking for some differentiator.
Well, you figure Prime probably gets built into that phone somehow. Like
That's like we have an app store with fewer apps. That can't be it.
I expected. Well, but remember we talked about Fire TV when Amazon announced that. And we thought, oh, but it's really just a Me Too product.
It really kind of is, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think it may just be Amazon saying, look, we're going to have all the devices in all the areas, just like we have the Fire tablet, the Fire HDX tablet. Nice tablet with a modified Android.
Did I make this comparison on the show? I don't remember, but it occurred to me that Amazon getting into these markets is a lot like in the old days when Barnes & Noble started publishing their own books. And as an author, you go into a store and you want to see your book in the computer section, and you go over there, and this is Barnes & Noble section of books that are selling for, 1/3 the price of normal computer books, and it's a little upsetting at the time.
Yeah.
Obviously, karma has caught up with Barnes & Noble,
right.
but
they were crap books.
But whatever. But you can go to Amazon now, and they have these sort of versions of things. And Amazon makes a lot of electronics, actually. If you look it up, like Amazon Basics, they have a lot of really cheap, HDMI cables and tablet stands and cases, and they do all these little things.
Yeah, why not? And I think,
but as you watch them get into fights with companies now publicly,
right?
I mean, at some point, people just get attuned to going to Amazon to buy things. Maybe the brand is not going to matter, and they just buy whatever Amazon sells, and those things increasingly are Amazon things.
With ebooks, they've done that.
Yeah.
They've absolutely disintermediated ebooks.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think my sense is that the Kindle HDX, their HD tablet's very popular. It's inexpensive. It's popular with a certain class of people who are not sensitive to the brand, but just want a tablet, as you say,
and are by definition not rich.
And it's cheap, and it's got everything they want. It's actually a very good tablet. It's not.
Yeah, no, spec wise, it certainly competes. With whatever. Yeah.
So if you're, if Amazon is a brand you particularly like and identify with, then that makes sense. Buy the Amazon thing, the Amazon.
Yeah, it's tough though. You get into this Amazon stuff and you're in. It's like the mob. I mean, you have a couple hundred books on Kindle. You're not going to buy a Nook.
Yeah. Well, that's the same with Apple, right?
Yeah. Oh no, I know. I'm not saying it's unique.
Ecosystems are.
It's
good
no
for
less
the
evil. I mean,
right? Yeah. They're not good for you. They're good for the companies.
Why would a publicly owned corporation want to make money? I don't get it.
I don't understand it. What is their rationale? What are they thinking?
I don't get money.
Well, that's why you're a writer.
Exactly. Obviously, for all you've chosen.
That's why you keep writing books.
Cost $2. Yeah.
I'm going to write an Amazon book.
Now, the Lumia McLaren. And McLaren is a race car. It's a driver, and it's a race car company. And it implies that this will be a fast phone.
That's good.
Right?
That would be good.
Yeah,
I like the name McLaren. I wonder if they licensed it.
McLaren's a good name, yeah.
They license
Well, no,
it?
this is a code. They're not
name.
going to use this.
Oh,
It's
okay.
a code name.
No, this will be the Lumia, 1675
Right.
Windows Phone 9, whatever they call it. I
I
mean,
hope they start switching with that, like they did with the
I did
Lumia
too.
Icon. Like Lumia Icon was no number, right?
it's a good name, yeah.
It'd be kind of cool
Problem
though,
is,
if it was
know-
like a Formula One phone with racing stripes.
Right. There's no reason they couldn't do that. But,
it's kind of a neat brand name.
Nokia makes too many phones. That's one of the problems. And so it's hard to come up with unique names that are meaningful.
Right. So it's just a code
You
name.
have so many devices. I mean, maybe they scale back a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe Belfiore been tweeting. What is he saying these days? Joey B.
Yeah. Overnight, he launched a whole bunch of tweets giving people some things to grouse about again.
It's like a groundhog. He pops his head up and
He does. And he
Throw-
drops
you know,
a bunch
and
of
then-
Tosses his hair. And
throws a grenade and then goes back to sleep.
Exactly. Yeah, he talked about, let's see, I'm looking at his tweets now. Windows Phone 8.1 software is finished. Yep, we knew that. They're updating. Fixes are ongoing. Then he said, people are asking, why aren't universal apps ready yet? Universal apps are the ones where they work on phone and PC, and you can go to the store, and if you buy one, you automatically get the other one. And he's saying, well, we're just ramping up Windows Phone 8.1 right now, so you have to wait for that before they can start coming.
But what didn't they, when they announced universal apps, there was an understanding about the time frame, wasn't there? I mean, this was not something that it's just on. I thought this was coming to the store later in the year or something.
Yeah, I think
I'd have to look it up.
people
I don't know.
started seeing some apps in the store were checked as being available for both Windows Phone 8.1 and,
Yeah, but
and Windows 8.
that's not
but
a
that didn't
universal
mean
app.
it was a universal app.
That's a license.
Right.
So yeah, they turned on a licensing thing in the store.
Yeah, they did.
Which allowed those app developers who wanted to participate to do that.
Right.
But that's not a
Because
universal app.
Yeah, universal apps means you can reuse more of the code. You can use the new version of Visual Studio. One of the updates, I think it's update 2, to build common projects that work across the two platforms. So it has a very specific meaning. The one that he talked about the one that he talked about that Paul and I saw the most people complaining about was what they're doing around social network integration. So Joe Belfiore said, the reason we decided to undo the hub model, as we've talked about before with Windows Phone 8.1, was the way we had it was only specific social networks were integrated into things. So yes, Facebook was integrated. Yes, Twitter was integrated, but all the other social networks were not. So now in order to decouple the operating system from the social networks, we're undoing the hub model. And that really is getting some people really
That's not how you
upset.
fix it. You add other social...
Well, no, so...
Yeah.
Can't you allow?
This
This is how they solved it on Android, and they're about to solve it on Apple. Is when you install an app like LinkedIn, it just adds it to the hub.
So they are sort of doing that in Windows Phone.
Okay.
Yeah. What do they call that? It has a social something name. You've actually written
social
about
framework,
it,
I think, is the name of it.
Yeah.
This is a tough one because when you go back to the original Windows Phone announcement. Obviously Microsoft went into this market. They wanted to differentiate and not just be different, but, attempt to be better than the existing platforms. And this is one of the areas that I certainly trumpeted as a big advantage, this integration stuff. You could go to the messaging app and message across various networks. You could go to the People app and you could post things to multiple networks or to one network or your choice of networks. It was kind of a neat deal. In use, though, what you discover over time is that integration is nice, but it doesn't keep up with the innovations that are occurring on the underlying services. And the big example I always use, because it's the one that hit me earliest on, was you could check into Facebook from the integration parts, but you couldn't check other people into Facebook, which is something you could do in the Facebook app. And so increasingly over time, not just for that one reason, but there were many other things, I just started using the apps instead of the built-in integration parts. And they would become further out of date over time because Microsoft couldn't update them because, of course, the carriers don't let Microsoft update the OS that much. It just doesn't happen, especially 7, 7.5, up through, well, until 8.0, I would say. They just didn't get a lot of updates out. And so the new model is designed to answer that problem, have the integration occur through the app. Apps can be updated at any time. We've talked about this, in businesses are so freaked out about updating OSs all the time on the rapid release model, but they update apps on their mobile phones every single day. No one bats an eye. And so Microsoft can update or the third parties in this case can update their apps. And that will update the integration piece and everyone's happy, supposedly. But everyone's not happy because, as it turns out, currently anyway, the process of, you're going to share something on Facebook. So you bring up the new share button they have in Windows Phone 8.1, which looks like the share button in Windows 8.1. You have a list of choices. You choose Facebook, and then the Facebook app loads slowly. And you go to that part of the Facebook app that does the sharing bit, and you can do that. And it's a share contract. It works a lot like it does in Windows 8.1. It's slow though, and that's the problem. And here we are before Windows 8.1 has come out, and the Twitter app was made briefly available in kind of a beta. It turns out it was a mistake, and so a lot of people didn't get it. I happen to have it on one phone. I don't have it on another, and you need that new version of the app to share through Twitter using that built-in kind of new integration bit. LinkedIn will be added, and like you said, other third parties can add their own services. And so this is like one of those little tumults that's going through Windows Phone right now. So we're sitting here with like 4% market share. You got to make some changes when things aren't working. And I think back to the Facebook app is another example. Remember when the Facebook app on Windows Phone used to look like a Windows Phone app? It was really neat. And then they switched it to this generic design that looks like the Facebook app on other platforms. And it was like, this doesn't have that Windows Phone differentiation. But obviously it's better to just have the app than it is not to have the app. And that was kind of the choice. And so you have to give up that uniqueness just to have the app. And in this case, you have to give up what many people would argue was one of the best parts of Windows Phone, because as good as it was, it actually wasn't working. It couldn't, because of wireless carriers, because of app developer, for probably 100 reasons. You just couldn't keep those integration bits up to date. And so now they have a new model, and we all love change, and so people are freaking out.
But now I think some people also are freaking out because it's now in the hands of the developers to work with this. And Leon Zanman reminds us it's called the Social Extensibility Framework, right? That's the thing they have to tie into. So we're having to wait for Facebook and wait for Twitter to update their apps for Windows Phone 8.1 so that they work with the new model and not the old way now.
But you know what? That's still better than the old system, because we could wait all we wanted. It was never coming. And so the way it worked in previous versions was it never got updated. So you had to use the app. If you wanted to do the thing I just described, Facebook adds a new feature, whatever it is. If you want to do that, it has to come through the app. I mean, Facebook, actually, I don't think Facebook is all that slow, to be honest, but whatever. You have to wait for Facebook, yes. Better than waiting on AT&T, better than waiting on Verizon, because that's never going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the difference between never and slow, I guess.
Yeah.
You're always at the mercy of somebody. Come on.
You are. And I think
write your
right
own
now,
software.
right now it's only open to certain social network providers. Microsoft's only working with certain ones right now.
I think it was the top 3 from the get-go. And then I guess what he's saying, though, is now it's just open to anybody.
Yeah,
and what that says to me
that
is
it will be.
Yeah. So, they always kind of implied it would be, but the theory is if you're Flickr or whatever they're calling Google Plus Photos these days, or whatever it is, Google Plus, let's say, or a third party who wants to write to their open APIs, you could put something into the share contract that would let you share a photo, whatever it is, to whatever service. It works just like it does in Windows 8. It's like 2 open-ended things. You can, Flickr would obviously you would share photos, and so you could select photos and share to Flickr. That's a good way to get them into Flickr.
Yeah, Apple just announced this in iOS 8 because they had the same issue where it was only approved companies, et cetera. And you got to come up with a safe way to do this, because you've got one app kind of intruding in another app.
This is not the show to discuss that, but actually Apple's integration announcement, the more I think about it, is actually the single biggest thing that happened last week.
Extension.
Because this was all of it is extensibility across the board. Like, you can add your own keyboard to the phone. Are you kidding me?
That's huge.
The iPhone or iOS or whatever, Apple's platforms are closed. You get what you get, and you like it, and no one complains.
No, I agree with you. This is huge.
I mean, honestly, that's huge. But
it's almost a new app.
No, I think so. Tim Cook's Apple, you're looking for it. There it is. I mean, that's a big change. But again, that's not a big deal for us. But on the Microsoft side, they've always been trying to do this integration thing in Windows Phone, in Windows 8 as well. And it just wasn't the way they did it before. It just wasn't working. And fortunately for those people who are kind of the ardent fans of Windows Phone, a lot of them are very disappointed right now, because they look at this and they say, it worked fine for me, and it was faster, and it was less steps and whatever, and fair enough. But, unfortunately, it's like evolve or die. I mean, we don't really have a choice.
Do we want to talk about some of the new cool Windows phones?
Besides McLaren?
Sure. No, these are actually coming out soon.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one of them here.
Oh.
Do you really? Which one?
Excitement
I have
Central.
The Lumia 630.
630.
Oh, man.
So that's the first Windows 8.1 phone.
It comes with 8.1.
That's 8.1.
Yes, it is Windows 8.1. Windows Phone 8.1.
What's unique about that?
630 is the single SIM or the dual SIM one?
Is this a single or dual SIM? It's a micro SIM. This is a micro SIM. This does not have a U.S. carrier assigned to it, as far as I know. This is going to be a world.
Yeah, no, these are international. Yeah.
Probably dual
SIM. So I'm
SIM
just using it on Wi-Fi.
Very colorful and pretty.
Yeah, really nice.
It's nice.
Yep, it's very light. It's got the plastic back.
Yeah.
So what do you use it on here? Is it attached to AT&T here?
Nope, I'm just using it on Wi-Fi.
Just on Wi-Fi. Okay. Yep.
Yep. It's 4.5 inches. I was showing it to a couple of iPhone users yesterday who both said, wow, I actually like that size a lot because it's a little bigger than your iPhone.
They're the only people in the world who say, wow, that's big.
I know. They thought it was big.
You know what, though? Apple users are beautiful because when iPhone 6 or whatever comes out with a 4-point-whatever-inch screen, 5-inch screen, they will proclaim that this is the perfect size, and God bless Apple for giving it to us. You know?
Yeah. It was funny because to me, it seems so tiny because I've been using the 1520, the icon, and I'm like squinting at this thing like, whoa, it's little.
It's only 4.5 inches. Wow, that's
It's like
huge.
using a periscope.
Yeah. It has Cortana on it, which is nice. It does not have a dedicated camera button on it.
Right, which is weird, right? That
very
would freak
weird.
me out.
You know, I don't really mind that. I keep hitting it by accident on my 1520.
That bothers me so much.
Okay, you're a righty.
Yeah.
Because on the 1520, because I'm a lefty,
because of the way you
I
hold it.
cannot not hit a button on the right side because
wow.
there's so many buttons. Because I'm holding
How did you get this far in life without having someone tie your left hand behind your back and force you to use the correct hand for everything?
I realize this is a right-handed biased phone because if you hold it in your right hand, your thumb finds a natural spot right between the buttons. But with 4 fingers on the other side, there's no good place to hold that phone that you don't hit volume on, off, or a camera button. It's actually a weird problem.
The 1520 is also humongous, so you almost need like an oven mitt or something to hold it.
I have to hold the
catcher's mitt.
It is not an easy phone for me to hold because I can't hold it naturally.
Right.
Which is just a weird. But it's only lefties would notice this.
Yeah. Huh.
Isn't that odd?
Yeah, I keep reaching for the camera button.
You're a
on
lefty,
this.
aren't you, Mary Jo?
No, I'm a
righty.
righty.
Are you a lefty? Oh, you're righty.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm working with a bunch of righties.
It's an adjustment not to have the camera button after you get so accustomed.
You get used to it.
That is the thing I miss so much on every other phone.
And on Windows Phone, that launches that launches the camera app if you hit the button. Right?
You can configure which app it launches, which is really neat.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
so
yeah,
what do you have
at
to do?
least
You
with
put a camera tile on your
notification
start
screen. You can have a camera button
like
set
the
on
rest of the world.
there. Or you can use the
Screw
camera
those
app.
guys. That's awful.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Yeah. It's a nice.
Why would they even do that? That's so crazy.
It is a
did
Nokia
they
thing
take
to have
that?
a camera button.
It's like every single phone until this version has had that button.
This is like a normal phone.
Maybe because they're trying to make it easier on OEMs to have the option not to have the dedicated.
No, I get
listening
why
to the lefties
Microsoft
of the world.
removed it as a requirement. But for whatever it's worth, the camera button requirement was removed for 8.0. Nobody shipped a phone without it.
Right.
So this is not a new thing to 8.1. This has been around since 8.0. What I'm asking is why Nokia, which has shipped a bunch of phones, has never done this. Why would they do it with this one? It's such a weird thing to leave off.
It's not there.
I think. Okay.
Yep. It's a nice little device, though. Liking it. I think it'd be really nice for people who. It looks just like a regular Windows phone. Has all the other features except the camera button.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what the unsubsidized cost of that will be on, say, Expansys or whatever. But it's kind of a low-end phone. It's like a low-res screen, right?
What else is new? What other new phones? I'm sorry.
Yeah, what other ones?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I just don't want to obsess with this one.
No, let's. No,
Mary Jo does have it, so that's cool. Yeah.
No, so last week Microsoft posted a bit more about some of the other phones that they announced at Computext. And a bunch of these, actually, I think all of these, or most of these, are coming to the United States, which is kind of interesting. We only have partial information on all of them, but a company called Blue, which is BLU, has 4 and 5-inch handsets coming. They don't have names yet. Really attractive, multiple colors, bright colors, that kind of thing. So those are cool looking. The 5-inch is identical looking, at least in the photo, to the original version of the HTC One, which I think we can all agree is a nice look. But in multiple colors, like neon yellow, neon orange, neon pink, and so forth.
Nice.
There's a company called Prestigio that is making 2 very similar looking phones, a multi-phone 8500 Duo and then an 8400 Duo. And the difference there is 5-inch versus 4-inch screen, and then the screen res. So the 8400 is a low-end device, 480 by 800 screen. And the 8500 is kind of what I'd call a mid-level device, 5-inch screen, but it's 720p instead of 1080p. Otherwise, pretty similar. They look nice and cheap. The 8500 is coming out in Europe. Actually, that one's not the United States. in July, and it's unsubsidized, $235. And actually, the low-end one will only be $115 when it arrives in August. And then we talked about the Billy phone, the 4.7. Apparently, I guess we kind of walked through this a little bit last week, but I guess these names like Billy and Andy are like phone lines, and it looks like Andy is the name of all of their Android phones, and so they have different names based on screen size or whatever. So this is like a Billy 4.7, and I guess there's going to be a Billy 4.0 that will ship later, have a 4-inch screen instead of a 4.7-inch screen, obviously. But that's going to be a quad processor device, which is very interesting, and 8-megapixel rear camera, and it's only going to cost $140. And that will be sold in the United States as well as in Europe and other markets. And the Yes Billy is only going to be $250 at Amazon, unsubsidized.
As we mentioned last week, the Billy in this is Billy Gatesy.
Billy Gates, yeah. As we often would call him, Billy.
Billy. Somehow I doubt even his parents called him Billy.
Yeah, right. Yeah. He'd call it the Stormtroopers if somebody called him Billy.
Oh, Billy.
Nope. Unleash the hounds.
Yeah. Cool. So these will all come soon, and they're very affordable.
E1 devices.
Yeah. Nice.
And there'll be a lot more. I mean, remember, they signed on, I don't know, was it 7 or 9 new partners back in February, I think, at Mobile World Congress. I think, if I'm getting my dates right. So, throughout the year, I think we're going to see all kinds of stuff, including a bunch of stuff in China that, won't impact us directly, but could help Windows Phone in a very material way.
Grow the market. Grow the market, baby. Finally, Microsoft fights the feds.
So, Mary Jo is my resident psychologist. Spent a lot of time this morning listening to me complain about the story because at some point in the middle of the morning, it suddenly occurred to me that the news article I usually finish writing by, say, 9 a.m. is now an hour and a half overdue, and I was really struggling with it. And it's because it's a legal story, and what Microsoft is fighting over is a legal issue, which I don't understand because I write about computers. And it reminded me of the early days of the antitrust trial, where all of a sudden you had to understand the antitrust laws of the United States, let's say, and product bundling and all these kind of terms and things that were just not familiar to us. We all became like legal experts, because this was just part of our daily life. I'm not going to try to explain this accurately, but the basics of this are that Microsoft was asked by the federal government in December, I think it was, to provide it with information related to provide it with customer data stored in Outlook.com for a customer who was part of a criminal investigation. It turns out that customer's data is stored in Ireland. And so Microsoft protested, saying that you can't ask for data that's stored in another country. And the reason they're doing that is because of all the stuff going on with Snowden and NSA and everything. And a lot of companies are looking at this cloud computing stuff and saying, well, hold on a second. We have all these laws in Europe, let's say, because Europe is actually kind of a hotbed for this kind of stuff, that have to do with where data can be stored. For example, if you're in Germany, company can't store a German citizen's or German company's data outside of Germany. And so you have to either have a partner or a data center there for that kind of stuff. Europe is a little sensitive right now because the United States is apparently spying on everybody, including itself. And the thought that the United States could reach into computers that are in other countries and seize the data and bring it back to the United States is kind of scary to the rest of the world. And people are starting to say, well, maybe we don't want to use Microsoft Online Services. And so there's a lot at stake here. I never saw anywhere that this guy was a citizen of the EU or whatever. I'm not really sure where he's from. I assume if the data is in Ireland, he is in fact from Europe. But interesting issue. Anyway, the case hinges on a bunch of things. There was a judge who made a ruling that what the government was asking for was in fact a hybrid of a subpoena and a warrant, and that it was, okay under certain laws that we have with data protection that kind of bypass the Fourth Amendment, and this whole craziness. But what it boils down to is that Microsoft is trying to stop the government from taking this data, and it's making a very public stand so that it can show the world that it's doing this kind of thing. And I really need to stop thinking about this right now because I'm getting stressed just going through this. It's such a horrible topic. But I hope they. I mean, I hope they
That
succeed,
was good.
whatever it's worth. But
Yep.
yeah, so they've already lost. I mean, a federal court has already ruled that this is legal and that the government has the right. And so this thing's actually going to go to court. I think in not in late July. So in July there'll be oral arguments, and then eventually it will go to court. I guess Microsoft's going to keep fighting it apparently. So we'll see how that goes. Did that do it any justice? Does that make any sense? I'm not even.
That was a
This
good
is why we
synopsis.
have This Week in Law, because I just let them handle all
Yeah.
this stuff.
Yeah, talk about it on there. This is if you want to just lose your mind, read the court filings in this case.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It is insane.
The bottom line is they're fighting it, which is, I think, what we all want. And of course, we know they'll lose in the end, but they're giving it the good fight. That's all.
Oh, and by the time it's over, this court case that is, at the back of this will have been resolved anyway. I mean, it's not even going to matter.
Right.
Yeah, really strange.
We're going to take a break. Back of the book, just around the corner. Paul's tips, Mary Jo's beer, enterprise picks, code names, all of that stuff. Our show today brought to you by Citrix ShareFile. This is in fact, Wednesday is ShareFile Day here at the studio. This is when I sit down and record a bunch of ads for different radio stations for the radio show this weekend, and I use ShareFile to get it to them. It is really the best way to share files. You know that in business, you frequently need to send presentations, invoices, spreadsheets, contracts, all of that stuff. And you might be tempted to send it via email attachment. Bad idea. I've said many times, don't open attachments. So that means the people on the other end are going to be a little hesitant. What is this? What did I get? It's easy enough today with the file sizes we've gotten on a lot of these things to send attachments that actually overflow the inbox or get bounced back. And most importantly, it's not secure. Sending attachment via email is like sending a postcard. Anybody along the way can read it. This is why we use ShareFile. It solves all those problems. You can send files of almost any size without bounce backs. You never lose control of the file. You decide who has access to it and for how long. You'll get a notification telling you when the file is open. Plus, you could password protect the files. Makes it really easy to share. I run the ShareFile Sync app on my desktop, so anything I put in a special ShareFile folder, actually I have several, automatically gets uploaded to my ShareFile account. I have it set up so that the people I'm sending files to get notifications automatically, but I can also get a secure link that I can attach. You can even request files via ShareFile. It is a really great solution for any business that sends a lot of data or wants to send a lot of data to clients and colleagues. Now, I want you to try it free for 30 days. You'll see if you go to sharefile.com, you can kind of review all the capabilities and so forth. You'll also see several big green Start Your Free Trial buttons. And just do me one little favor. Don't click any of those obvious buttons. Click the one you can barely find right at the top where it says Podcast Listeners, click here. Just please click there. So you can put in the code Windows and give Paul and Mary Jo credit for this. And choose your industry, too, because you'll customize it. It's HIPAA compliant if you're in the medical industry, compliant with SEC regulations in the financial industry. But it's everything: food service, graphic design, marketing, photography, even personal use. I actually share files all the time, photos and so forth with ShareFile. Because the ShareFile, the person on the other end doesn't have to be a ShareFile subscriber, doesn't have to know anything. They just get my company logo on the page is branded by me, not ShareFile, and a big button that says download. It's couldn't be easier for them. That's important too. Go to sharefile.com, click the microphone, enter the offer code Windows. You'll get it for 30 days free. The best way to share files in business. Of course, because it's from Citrix. Citrix's ShareFile. Try it today. Paul Thurrott, Mary Jo Foley, Windows Weekly. We're going to start off with Paul's tip of the week in the back of the book.
So in the process of debugging my Surface Pro 3 problems last week, I witnessed something that made me look this up, which was in pressing buttons on a tablet, trying to get it to do something. Suddenly the thing came on and it went into the firmware screen, like the UEFI screen. I thought that was kind of interesting. Never seen that before. And it's interesting, obviously with PCs, we've had the BIOS for many, many years. Modern PCs have this EFI, UEFI type firmware instead, which is typically just more sophisticated and whatnot. Computers tend to have lots and lots of options in there. The Surface Pro 3, like the Surface Pro 2, or Surface Pro 1, I would imagine as well. I didn't check that one. Has a really minimalistic kind of firmware. And there aren't many options, but some of those options are related to such things as TPM and Secure Boot, which are hardware-level technologies that integrate with Windows or whatever OS and provide certain services related to the integrity and reliability and security of the system. And they're designed to enable our NSA state and constant surveillance and all that kind of stuff. No, I'm sorry. It's all good for the user. Well, anyway, these things are kind of confusing. Actually, Mary Jo, as a Surface RT user, may have suffered from the red screen thing where, there were. Did you get that bug back in the Surface RT
I never
days?
got that bug.
Okay, so some people had that. I had it, where you had to fix. It was a secure boot problem. I think the system thought secure boot wasn't on, even though it was, and you had to go into the firmware and fix it. And so, if you think about the process for accessing your firmware, whatever it is, BIOS, UEFI, whatever, usually there's a boot sequence. You get a screen, you hit a key, goes into that setup routine, and that's how you do it. But a Surface Pro, or any Surface device, but Surface Pro 3 in this case, you don't necessarily have a keyboard attached to it. It's just the tablet. And you only have a kind of a minimalistic set of buttons on the thing. Volume up and down, a power button, the start or window key, whatever, that doesn't probably do anything when it's off anyway. How do you make it how can you get into the firmware when, when it's booting up? Because it's also kind of a fast boot sequence as well. And so there's a secret key code, as it turns out, or secret key combination. And it involves, it's actually kind of funny. You press on the volume key and hold the volume up key button, hold it in, press the power up button, release both, and then the Surface the Surface boot screen appears briefly, and then you can go in the firmware and make those changes. That said, there aren't a lot of reasons to go in there. There's not much you can do. Businesses can do things like disable certain ports, and that's part of it. It's got USB, micro SD, video out, for example. You can mix and match which ones of those work. You can enable and disable TPM, which, most Surface Pro, Surface users would never do. And you can disable, if you want, secure boot. And there's some stuff around the encryption keys that are associated with that as well. The only reason I can think of to do any of this stuff is if you wanted to put another OS on the box, which I think we all agree is ludicrous. But some people might want to do that. So if you wanted to dual boot with an earlier version of Windows because you're a developer, or if you wanted to dual boot with Linux, and I feel like I need to genuflect when I say that, that would.
Oh, great Linux God, we appease thee.
So I just, my tip of the week is for Linux users this week, I guess.
That's
is what
awesome.
I'm saying. The point is, there is a way to get into it if you need to, and I only did it by mistake, but it's interesting to see a text screen come up on a tablet that has a software mouse cursor that you can move with your finger. So there it is. Surface
so in order to do that, you do, as you mentioned, have to turn off secure boot. It seems like that's a risky thing to do, but.
Secure boot is designed to protect the machine from the turning on through the boot process. It's kind of a handoff that occurs. And it works kind of in tandem with TPM to just ensure the integrity of the system, that it is assigned software components in the case of the OS, that the pre-boot stuff, you can have AV software that boots up before Windows. That's important to protect the system as it's booting, so you don't get that kind of a drive-by attack or whatever. It's all important for Windows. And so for typical users that are going to use this thing as intended, it's as a Windows 8.1 whatever machine.
It's a really good thing.
You leave it on, you don't touch it. Yeah. But it's just good to know how to get into it, because there's
Linux is not signed.
There's nothing on the screen that tells you this is what you do. I mean, it's quick and you're in. You know.
Good. That's actually a great tip. I was wondering if you could do that. We all know how to get a BIOS on a standard PC, but this is a little bit different.
Well, it tells you. Yeah. Usually.
Press delete to enter BIOS or whatever setup.
Yeah. Well, Surface Pro, they want it to be like a device, so.
Right.
Not a lot of information. It's like Surface and you're in Windows.
What's funny is this is kind of how you do it on Android too. You press the volume up button and the power button.
Oh, is it really? Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. A good tip, very useful tip, which I'm going to make a note of. And now our software pick of the week.
This kind of evolved into like 200 software picks somehow. I'll burn through it quickly. A lot of these things don't deserve a lot of talk, but. Microsoft a couple months ago made a bookmarklet available for the OneNote clipper. And so you could add this bookmarklet to the, the bookmark bar or whatever you have in whatever browser you're using. And it worked on all browsers. It worked on IE, Firefox, Chrome. And I think it even worked on Safari in Mac OS X. But I guess a lot of Chrome users were asking for a native extension. And so they've supplied that. And it works really well. It's got a nice little icon. The difference between an extension and a bookmarklet, as I understand it, is actually pretty subtle. But I happen to use the bookmark bar in my browsers. A lot of people don't. And this allows you to have the icon up just in the regular address bar, the regular toolbar that you have. So that's one difference. But I think there's some sophistication that can occur in an extension that can't occur in a bookmarklet, because a bookmarklet's just JavaScript. As it stands today, it works exactly the same. You click the button, it saves the entire web page as a graphic, pasted into OneNote, into whatever quick note you've previously configured as the default. I expect in the future they may make it a little more sophisticated. For example, why not make the thing that gets pasted in a combination of graphics and text, which maybe is what people want, or you can configure it just to give you the text, which I think also people would want, because people have used this tool, have said to me, I don't really want a graphic, I want the text. And it's worth noting that OneNote is sophisticated enough to do character recognition of graphics. And so if you search OneNote, like you said, well, I know I saved this web page and it was about this topic. If you search OneNote for that topic and the text is in that graphic that was clipped, you'll find it through search. And so you can actually get to it that way, but you obviously can't select the text and cut and paste it. So that's one of 17.
That's one down.
I'll move more quickly for the other ones. Facebook Messenger was updated Windows Phone. I don't have to say much about that other than to say that, Facebook is splitting out their apps now. So there's a Facebook app. They're going to be removing the messaging capabilities from the app and putting it in Facebook Messenger. Facebook Messenger is actually not a bad all-in-one messaging app, but if you talk to people on Facebook, you're going to need it. That's been updated. Skype, Microsoft is updating the iPhone version of Skype to look like the Windows Phone version, which I actually find to be hilarious, by the way. I compared it to the current version of Skype for iPhone, and the current version of Skype doesn't look anything like an iPhone app, but it also doesn't look anything like the other Skype apps. So I guess they're making it consistent across platforms. So Android, iOS, Windows Phone will look essentially the same. And you look at them side by side, you can see they're basically the same. That's not out yet, but it's coming out next week. A listener, Richard Abloh, wrote in and reminded me, I completely forgot about this, but the other day, Disney made a bunch of the games temporarily available for free on Windows 8.x and Windows Phone. And some of these are normally $5. And so if you grab these things now, you can just get them for free. And God help me, I'm going to read through the list. But it's Disney Solitaire. I know I have no interest in any of these games, but some people will, especially people with kids. Disney Solitaire, Where's My Water? Where's My Perry? Where's My Mickey? Wreck-It Ralph, Toy Story Smash It, Monsters University. And then I thought this was a typo, but believe it or not, this is the name of a game. WMW XYY.
Where's My Mickey chromosome?
I don't know what that means, but that's the name. That is literally the name of the game.
Wow.
You can look it up. Okay, they're all free. Anyway, if you have kids or you're a child at heart. And then one final one. This just happened as we were starting the show. Microsoft, I think Joe B announced this, Pinterest, which I call Pinterest, as you know, has released the beta version of their long-promised app for Windows Phone. And so if you're that kind of person, I don't know who uses this service, but if you do.
Is that what you call them?
Yeah,
Pinners?
I don't know. I'm a little scared about this. I thought it was going to be all good news, and I'm getting people on Twitter saying it's just a wrapper around their website, and they're not happy
when they do that.
So I don't know if that's true, but I've been seeing that.
You know what? It's 1 megabyte. I think they're right.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
A megabyte file probably doesn't contain an entire app.
Well, I feel comfortable crossing that one off the list if you want to do that. I don't care.
There's some third-party Pinterest or Pinterest, however Paul wants
all this time later, and what they released was a wrapper for the web page?
I know. I can't believe it either. I'm like, really? No. Yeah.
Well, that's second rate. Okay, I'm my promise to you is that I will never install this app. Yeah, so I don't really care.
Yeah, but yeah.
Sorry. But, OneNote clip.
MW means Where's My Water featuring XYY.
Really?
That's what they're telling me in the chat room, and you know the chat room never lies.
They must be just making the name small so it fits on a mobile screen or something.
It's if you look on the Android side, you'll see that they call it "Where's My Water" feature.
They're really beating this "Where's My Whatever" to death. They have approximately 212 games with this kind of name.
I think they acquired "Where's My Water." That's been around for a while.
Really? That was the one with the crocodile, right?
Yeah, that was a good one. Taught you water conservation or something.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you, Paul. You've done your service for today. Back to ghosts for you. Meanwhile, Enterprise Pick of the Week, Mary Jo Foley.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? My Enterprise Pick of the Week also has a Linux bent to it, so this is kind of interesting. My pick is Docker, and Docker is an open source engine that automates application deployment. It's a big favorite among the Linux vendors like Canonical and Red Hat. And this week they announced, the folks at Docker Inc. announced the 1.0 milestone release of Docker. So everybody was trying to get on board. IBM, Rackspace, Google, everybody wanted to say, we're doing Docker. We support it. And surprisingly, Microsoft, or maybe not so surprisingly, given they're doing more open source these days, Microsoft also supports it. And the way they support it is you can run Docker, which uses a container model instead of a virtual machine model, on top of the Linux virtual machine on Azure. So that's pretty cool that you could do that. You could already do that, but Microsoft highlighted, yes, that's just how you can run Docker on Azure. And they also talked about how they're working on some cross-platform command line interface tools that's going to make it even easier to launch Docker on Azure. So they did a couple of blog posts. You can go and find them on the Azure blog, and I think there's a TechNet blog post that talks about this if you're interested in seeing how Docker works on Azure.
Excellent. And, of course, our codename pick of the week comes from a beautiful city.
Yes.
In France.
Yes. The codename pick of the week is Orleans, which I've done as a codename pick before, but I figured it was very appropriate to do it today, given we started the show off by talking about gaming. Orleans is a cloud programming model built around .NET that Microsoft Research built. Last year, they talked about how the Halo team actually used Orleans for some of their work around distributed gaming. I realized I totally let this slide past me at Build, but Microsoft made Orleans available in public preview form at Build. So now anybody can try out Orleans and see how this works with Azure. I found it very interesting that Microsoft's using it or is kind of seeding it internally as well. So they're not just using it with the Halo team, but they've had some hacker fests come to campus where they've let people try out Orleans. They've talked about how it maybe even could figure in some future way into their Internet of Things strategy, because Azure is a big part of that strategy as well. So yeah, Orleans is moving ahead. It's one of those research projects that we never really knew if and how it would be commercialized, but it looks like Microsoft is starting to move closer to making it available to developers in some form on Azure.
Orléans.
So that's my code. Orléans. I should have said it that way. Orléans.
Orléans.
Right, the French way.
But ladies and gentlemen, let us drink some beer in celebration of another fabulous Windows Weekly.
Yes.
This one comes from, looks like the Pacific Northwest. I'm guessing. I don't know.
Nope.
Nope.
From Colorado.
Oh,
Paul,
where all
I
good
don't even
beer
know
comes
Paul
from.
had this one. Yeah, I don't know if he
Which
had
one
this
is
one
it?
last week. Great Divides Rumble IPA.
No.
So this is a IPA, I think, Paul, and I think
Oh,
Paul
Mary
probably would
Jo.
like. No, I think you might like this one. It's not a hop bomb. It does have noticeable hops. I got to taste it last week. What makes it more interesting, though, is it's aged in oak. And so it gives it like a little interesting flavor that makes it a little different from other IPAs. But still, it's a nice IPA, very balanced, not all just hops, nothing else. You can definitely taste the malt in this one. I thought it was a really good one. And I think Paul would agree if he ever has
got
a
much
chance.
hops in it.
I will say this for Mary Jo. She knows what I like. And
I do.
when she recommends a beer, I always like it. She has never once handed me a beer and said, "I think you're going to like this," and then I spat it all over somebody. It's always been really good.
That's the kind of beer friend we all need.
It is. It is.
I know what you like, and you're going to like this one.
Yep. No, really. I mean,
no, that's good. Rumble IPA.
It's called Great Divide Rumble. If anybody can find it around their towns, it's a good one.
It's got a bull on the label. That's how I should have known.
You're not going to believe this, but I actually have another software pick to add.
What else?
So Microsoft has just released a pre-release version for the public of OWA for Android. And OWA it's such a stupid name because OWA historically stood for Outlook Web App. But what it is their Outlook client for Android. This is already available on iOS. So if you have an iPhone and I think iPad, but at least iPhone, you can get OWA. And what OWA is an all-in-one. That's not it. So look for, it's called OWA for Android is the name.
OWA for Android. Okay.
And it is from Microsoft. And what it is just an app that has it's for, Office 365 business accounts, all business accounts, small business and up. Not Office 365 personal, not Office 365 Home Premium, not Outlook.com. This is for the business versions of Office 365. That's it. It has access to your Office 365 email, contacts, and calendar all in one app like you would do in Outlook. Why they don't just call it Outlook, I have no idea. So I think everyone probably understands that Android devices support EAS pretty well, and you can do all of this stuff through the native apps. But as the capabilities of Office 365 evolve and as the mobile devices are kind of moving away from EAS more to MDM type management type stuff. Microsoft wants to have this app where they can, make sure all of their native features are available in the service. And this is actually a cool little app if you need it. I don't actually use my Office 365 business account for a lot. I have it on the iPhone just to kind of check out what's going on there. But it's like it's like Outlook on the PC. It's all in one, all of that stuff in one app. So it just came out.
Not Outlook.com, however. It is
right, which is the consumer.
It is right.
Yep,
that's important, and it's from Microsoft, and it's free.
Yep, yeah, it's for Office.
But if you don't run an Exchange server, you shouldn't get it, or use an Exchange server.
Well, actually, if you run an Exchange server, I don't think you can use it. I think this is literally just for Office 365.
Oh,
I believe this will not work with a corporate Exchange, like an on-prem Exchange server. I think it has to be for Office 365.
All right, there you go. Pre-release, just released. Paul Thurrott is at the super site for Windows, winsupersite.com. That's where he hangs his hat. But you can also find his books online. And that includes the Windows81book.com. Windows81book.com. The Xbox Music, whatever, book. Windows Phone Secrets. I don't know. You write so many books. I just can't. In the time we've been doing this show, you've written like 8 books. I can't keep up.
I know. How do you people even allow me to keep doing this? What is wrong? What kind of friends are you?
I buy every one of them. I'm broke. And coincidentally, so is Paul. So
exactly.
Buy more.
Yeah.
Anyway, great to have you. Penton Media Analyst and regular around here. We just adore him. Mary Jo Foley, same there. She's the queen of Microsoft at allaboutmicrosoft.com, the ZDNet blog where she files all the time and really is the scoop person. Knows everything about Microsoft.
No books, though. No books.
Smart enough not to write any books.
Just the one. The one was enough.
A wise woman. So thank you so much, both of you. We do Windows Weekly Wednesdays, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC. So if you tune in and watch live, we love that. You'd be in the chat room and it's lots of fun. But if you can't, don't worry. We got on-demand audio and video available at twit.tv/WW or youtube.com/Windows Weekly or wherever you aggregate your podcasts like iTunes or Xbox or whatever. It's always there. And, of course, our fabulous apps, including we've got 2 apps on Windows Phone. And I'm not going to play favorites. We didn't do either of them, but try them both and see which one you like the best. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mary Jo. And we'll see you next time on Windows Weekly. Bye-bye.